Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways.
You know, a lot of people say that he was born on third base. In a sense, he was. He's born with the Trudeau last name. He was born with good looks. He was born with connections. The question is how did you use those?
Does he earn all the attention getting because he radiates inspired, mature leadership? Or because he's one of those famous for being famous type?
Day one, a portrait of the Trudeau campaign begins here in Vancouver at the city's Gay Pride Parade. An unorthodox campaign from the start, launching far from Ottawa. Most of the Liberals' winning decisions are on display right here. The candidate without a jacket, wading into the crowd with a manic energy. Whether political calculation or qualities that come naturally, the approach will serve him well in the 11 weeks to come. Including here, a gift of rolling with whatever moment a campaign can deliver.
The eldest son of former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau was sounding a bit like his father today. 18-year-old Justin Trudeau is now a student at a community college in Montreal. It's one of many Quebec colleges gearing up for a referendum next week on the question of Quebec's place in Canada. Justin's position is clear, but as Neil MacDonald reports, Trudeau the younger likely won't be as successful in arguing his point as was Trudeau the elder.
Everyone's got peer pressure at this age. I mean, there's pressure to smoke, there's pressure to do all sorts of stuff. And I've never been affected by peer pressure. Never.
This is what positive politics can do.
You look at this last 78 days, that I think sort of defined him. I think he's become, in the eyes of a lot of people, a better politician for having done what he did so flawlessly over the last 78.
Is the Trudeau phenomenon fandom, or is it a wild response to genuine leadership? Is it a Johnny Depp flair or sparks of Churchilliana? Is he a magnet for every TV camera and headline simply because he's attractive, given to party stunts, photogenic beyond the dreams of most MPs? Do people mob him, swoon, and take iPhone pictures mainly because he's Canadian royalty, by far the most famous 40-something in Canada? Or is it something else altogether?
These are the sort of the wild days of everything, where you get to see what this guy is like without the pretensions of power.
Martin Patriquin is Quebec bureau chief for Maclean's magazine and reported on the Liberal team.
If you had any other politician, and I would probably even include Obama in this, had a topless woman run up to him and get into a frame and then snap a shot of themselves, I don't think they would have reacted the way that Trudeau did. If you look at that picture, he might have been, he was with a topless woman, but he might have been with a toddler or somebody's grandmother. He was smiling, he was happy, and he just did it.
Merci de m'avoir permis de servir. Merci Sophie pour ta force, pour ta compassion, pour ta grandeur d'âme et pour ta générosité profonde.
Are people looking at Trudeau and seeing signs of the qualities that go deeper than name or fame, deeper than looks or locks, qualities that emerge from character, from a trained and educated mind, intellectually strong and curious?
Early on, the Liberals make a key strategic decision, promising billions in infrastructure spending and running deficits to pay for it. It's the all-important wedge issue, isolating the NDP, and voters get behind the idea.
Well, we believe that the economy needs investment, jobs, and growth.
They share with me the conviction that politics doesn't have to be negative and personal to be successful, that you can appeal to the better angels of our nature, and you can win while doing it.
Now, being liked is one thing, but when a future Prime Minister is asked the government he now most admires and answered that of Communist China, because it could turn things around on a dime and order up green policies with a snap of their dictatorial fingers, we're staggered.
It reminded me of the extraordinary and unique sacrifices that are made by anybody who serves this country at the highest levels. And I want to remind everyone, as I've said many times over the course of this campaign, Conservatives are not our enemies, they're our neighbors.
Well, a lot of Canadians, the surveys say 70%, suggest they want change. So if you're lucky enough to be Prime Minister after October 19th, what immediate change will they see from you?
Well, I mean, from the very beginning, I've talked about how we're going to strengthen the middle class in this country.
The trouble for Mr. Trudeau is that these kinds of appearances, more fluff than fodder, playing off his glamour, place him very much in the unserious world of entertainment celebrity and give nutrition to the thought that he is a lucky lightweight, not a serious leader of a modern democracy.
Journalist Jonathan Kay worked with Trudeau on his recent memoir and believes the deficit decision was a bold move.
For Trudeau, there was this vanishing sliver of political real estate between the Conservatives and the NDP. And I think he realized that he could either live in this vanishingly small piece of political real estate, or he could break out and go to the left of the NDP on a few key issues.
Leadership is about bringing people of all different perspectives together.
Where is Mr. Trudeau on stage, as his father was wont to do, delivering full, thought-out essays on Canadian life, aspects of how we live and govern ourselves, our place in this new age, or the shifting nature of Canada's economic and social landscape?
We need to grow the economy in a way that works for most Canadians, and for 10 years, Mr. Harper has neglected that.
Well, that's your message, but those kind of things take time. Those don't happen right away. What's the immediate change they would see?
A government that's focused on Canadians, a government that's answering questions, a government that's talking about the things that matter to Canadians and actually acting on them.
A flutter on pot policy doesn't cut it, and web stunts or Movember mustaches playing off the Johnny Depp persona, well, they look cute on Twitter, but they don't do for a real leader.
Now, you're all going to hear a lot tonight and tomorrow about me and about our campaign. Lots of people are going to have lots of opinions about why we were successful. Well, for 3 years, we had a very old-fashioned strategy. We met with and talked with as many Canadians as we could.
The gambit to go in and say we're going to run deficits is from the brain of Gerald Butts. We were at an event in Montreal. He couldn't, it was almost like he couldn't believe his luck. And one of the things that he said to me, he sort of said this, he turned around and he says, like, the NDP blew their brains out on this. They should have gone deficit, but they didn't because they're hidebound to not being Ontario in the 90s under Bob Rae, right? They're still trying to get past that reputation.
The lightness of being Justin may just be unbearable. For The National, I'm Rex Murphy.
Justin Trudeau.
We won this election because we listened. We did the hard work of slogging it across the country. We met with hundreds of people in the dead of winter in the Arctic and with thousands of people in Brampton in the middle of this campaign. You built this platform. You built this movement.
Now, the difference is Mr. Mulcair wants to continue with Mr. Harper's budget plan. Mr. Mulcair is committing to balancing the budget no matter what next year, which means he's going to have to cut, which means he's going to have to back off on some of the promises he's been making if he's going to achieve that.
I can remember when Stephen Harper was never going to be elected Prime Minister, when Jean Chrétien was never going to be elected Prime Minister. This is the longest election campaign in the history of the country. There's going to be many, many more innings to play.
Voters were so eager for someone who was full-throated in their criticism of Harper, in their energy to take Harper on. It was nervy and aggressive enough that it convinced the sort of people who are wavering between the Liberals and the NDP that this was their guy.
Great to see you.
Watching the candidate up close, there's a physicality to Trudeau. While most candidates live in the bubble of a campaign, Trudeau dives into the crowd, as though fueled by that kind of social interaction.
Actually, what we're promising, what we're building a plan around is the need for growth in this country, and it's economic growth that we need. I'm not worried too much about left-right spectrum. I'm worried about what's actually going to work to help Canadians who are worried about their own jobs.
You told us what you need to be successful. You told us what kind of government you want, and we built the plan to make it happen. Thanks for coming out today.
He is like an engine that is always idling, and it never actually comes to a full stop. When we were having editorial discussions about his book, he would sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but as soon as he found a point that animated him, he would jump up and start pacing the room. It's not even something I think he realized he was doing.
I think the bigger loss to them is the argument that they had counted on, and that the Post sustained, that they were the alternative. If you really wanted to get rid of Stephen Harper, they were the choice, even if you liked the NDP.
You know what? I'm focused on what actually matters. No, I'll let folks like you try to place us on a political spectrum. I'm focused on telling Canadians that we have a real plan, and we have a really extraordinary team to deliver that plan.
To be here tonight, and you will be at the heart of this new government.
But it's something he almost needed to do to think.
This morning at a Montreal metro station, the candidate, now Prime Minister designate, still needing to connect with people. If there's a vulnerability for Trudeau, it's perhaps the reality of politics and the decisions to come that will surely anger some Canadians.
He's so hypersocial. He feels so hyper-connected to the people around him. He doesn't want to disappoint anybody.
So, my message to you tonight, my fellow citizens, is simple. Have faith in yourselves and in your country. Know that we can make anything happen if we set our minds to it and work hard.
And politics, to a large extent, is about making tough decisions that are always going to make people sad. And in some cases, it's going to make millions of people sad and angry, and in some cases, horrified. And for somebody who loves being loved as much as Trudeau, I think his biggest challenge is making those decisions and seeing the angry looks in voters' faces, because that's inevitable for anyone who's leading a big country.